Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is One Punch Man, Season 1, Episode 14, The Human Monster. The episode in a nutshell is a brief summary of what happened in the episode. So in this episode, we pick up at the Hero Association meeting after Sonic's left and has revealed the purpose of the meetings, the other heroes that are there, Heavy Tank, Loincloth, um, Blue Fire, and Magic Trick Man are kind of angry at Sitch for wanting them to work with villains and are kind of insulted by this. Evelyn then comes up to attack the Heavy Tank Loincloth and is quickly defeated. But then Garu, Garu, I, I here I think I'm changing the pronunciation. I'm only pronouncing it one way, so there you go. Anyways, he appears and basically defeats everything in the room except Sitch and basically says that it will act as a fine debut for his status as a human monster because he doesn't want to be a human villain. He doesn't want to be a hero. He wants to be a monster. And then he, of course, leaves. We then also kind of pick up where last one left off with Fubuki with her two goons, Eyelashes and Mountain Ape, arriving towards where Saitama and Genos live together. And then we have Genos who opens the door and finds Speedo Sonic outside on the balcony coming for Saitama. And Genos is like, my master doesn't have time for your one-sided rivalry. I'm going to defeat you. And they start a fight heading off. And then, Saitama hears a knock on the door. He goes to check the door. And sure enough, Fubuki is there with her two goons and basically says, I'm the top ranking B class, B rank person. You can't move on to the next level without beating me. The Hero Association, there are factions and groups, and it's a whole industry, and you'll never get anywhere alone. So, join my faction, or I'm going to noob crush you. And basically, Saitama's like, yeah, no, he doesn't need to do that. So then Fubuki orders her goons to attack. He beats them with one punch. And so then she attacks him and is revealed to be an Esper, just like Tatsumaki, who is revealed to be her older sister, and the reason why she could never be the top of anything, which is why she's allowing herself to stay at rank B, the top of rank B, so she can at least be number one of that, and she doesn't have a hope of being rank A number one because that's firmly held by Amai Mask. And so basically, they start fighting, and at some point during their fight, Genos and Sonic's fight arrives nearby, and the blast, Saitama ends up having to shield Fubuki from it, and he basically is like, what are you two doing? And he decides that Genos doesn't have to waste his time with Sonic, lets Sonic kind of show him his new move, and reveals his serious side jumps, and the shockwaves alone are enough to defeat Sonic, who basically passes out from it. And then Fubuki realizes that Saitama is way out of her league, so she's not going to be able to crush him at all. And so she goes back into the apartment with them, and she basically tells her life story. Before then, King arrives, so she's already shocked that Genos calls him master. Then she's inside, she tells her lifetime story, why, you can't break through rank A because of Amai Mask and, get into rank S and blah blah blah. And then who arrives at the door but King, number 7 among the S ranks, asking Saitama about the game that he borrowed, and she's just there speechless. And then we move on to the post-credit scene where we have the Hero Association discussing potentially giving names, like nicknames, to Saitama and Genos. And then we also see Garo out and about defeating heroes, and the one that he defeats at the end of the post-credits was Tank Top Vegetarian. And so now that we've been reminded about what happened, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we'll rank on 2 lists, the mostly objective ranking list followed by the personal ranking list. So our mostly objective ranking list, we start with our single episode supporting character introductions, and we've got 1 point for Supon, who is defeated by Amai Mask, and 1 point for the Tank Top Vegetarian. We then have our multi-episode supporting character introduction, and this is Garo. He's been spoken about in other episodes and teased in other episodes, but this is the first one where he actually has lines and we see him doing bad things, trying to become a human monster, like defeating an entire room full of villains and heroes and heroes out on the street. So there's that. We then have our multi-season character development, which is where we learn more about Fubuki and that she's rank 1 in the B rank. Her powers are that she's an Esper like her older sister. However, Tatsumaki is way more powerful than she is, so even though in theory she should be one of the strongest, because of her older sister being that much more talented than her, she actually is not, and this is a complex for her, and that's worth 3 points. Then we have 4 points each for Genos. He has gotten upgrades since his fight in episode 1 and is able to use machine gun blows and much more extreme levels of fire than he normally does. And basically he's gotten an upgrade, so he's grown. And then Saitama reveals a new power of his own, which is part of his Sirius series, his Sirius sideways jumps. And that brings us to 15 positives. Now, I will note that there was one negative, and that was, of course, the negative messaging or behavior, and that was, of course, Fubuki's attempt to, basically subtly threaten Saitama to join her faction, or she's going to crush him, and then when he refuses and stands up to adversity, she decides to have her goons attack him and then attack him herself, and basically take him out of the running of being a hero, because he wouldn't join her faction. She couldn't press gang him into being part of her group. So that still leaves us above 10 at 13, and so this is a 10 out of 10 episode, which brings the season 2 ranking so far in our mostly objective ranking to in first, The Human Monster, and in second, Return of the Hero. So as for my personal thoughts on the episode, I enjoy this series, so I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a great episode. However, that being said, well, it was a lot of action, so there's not really much to commentate on because it was more the visual appeal of all of the fighting that was happening on screen, which was very exciting. We also got the planting of more seeds for future episodes with Garo and his whole thing going on the side. But yeah, I don't have a lot to commentate on because it was mostly a lot of fighting scenes, which were in and of themselves very entertaining. And that is why I also gave this episode an 8 out of 10, though I did like it slightly more than the last episode, which is why it is now in first place, The Human Monster, and then in second, Return of the Hero. Which brings the series ranking so far on our mostly objective ranking. Season 1 ended with 88.33%. Season 2 so far has 19 out of 120. And then on the personal ranking side, we have 76.67% for season 1, and then season 2 so far has 16 out of 120. And with that, we have now rewatched and ranked One Punch Man Season 1, Episode 14, The Human Monster. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.